You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower in Northport, Florida. This is John Rawlings, and I have Peter Bartolotta with me today. And first off, I want to say to you and your wife, I get well and get your energy up, and you know you got a lot of love and support in our town. So. You know that it's a big deal when you're going through some upper respiratory issues, and bless your wife and bless you for fighting through it, and anybody else that's out there struggling right now, just stay sharp, stay keen, and take care of yourself. So I wanted to start out with that because you are, to me, you're a very, very valuable piece to me, and I love our conversations, and I value our friendship. So please take care of yourself. So
I will. Thanks.
Yeah. So give us some Peter Bartolotta insight on things that are happening in the town right now that you feel are pushing Northport forward, so to speak.
Oh, well, a lot of good things are going on. Certainly the group North P period O period R period T period on Facebook is growing. I think they're close to 100 members now. And these are people that are interested in Northport and its future and on the positivity of Northport, not the people who are complaining about it. There's moves being made right now on War Mineral Springs, which I think are positive. It looks like we're going to have a viable plan over there that is going to be a revenue producer that won't put the management of it on the backs of the taxpayers. I saw the city rejected a funding for affordable housing. It's either state or federal, where developers get like almost $1 million or something for developing affordable housing. And they wanted to do it on property that the city has identified as commercial property. And I give the city leadership, the commissioners, at least 4 of them, credit for recognizing the importance of getting a commercial base in the city that diversifies our tax base. Otherwise, it's going to fall on the backs of the residents. And the once affordable Northport is going to become the unaffordable Northport. And they've made some moves on that. So they rejected that process, that developers' plans, because they wanted to see commercial development in those areas. So I think there's some good. It looks like the city is breaking through some of the obstacles that it's had in the past. I credit a lot of that to the leadership on the commission, and in general, and in particular to our mayor, Barbara Langdon, and our city manager, Jerome Fletcher. So we've got some talented people up there now, and they seem to be on the right track. So,
well, you talk about talented, but I think you got a couple of the talented with energized, energetic, and focused.
Yes, they are.
And when you take the word momentum, I think has got to be talked about with a town like ours, because when you're a smaller town and you're a town of 20,000, the momentum was easily restrained, and whether we want to look past or not, if you talk about our town today, we're 82 plus thousand. The word momentum is totally different than it was 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
And so, we've got, and what I really liked about the conversations I've been having, and I know that you've been having, is that we are not talking about the dismantling of the one vital asset that we have, which is trees and our wilderness and our economic ecotourism type things. We don't have beachfronts. If we don't really talk about why we should be embracing ecotourism or ecotourism, that whole thing has to be handled with kid gloves. People have to realize what's going on, and I know you feel the same way. You're not trying to tear up the landscape in Northport to put businesses here, but there's got to be a friendly way to combine those two. And I think we've got a city manager and commission right now that are embracing the growth and how it has to be constructed, or we're all going to be in trouble in another 10 years or so, or maybe even less, if we don't get some changes happening in a controlled, focused manner. Do you agree with that?
Yes, totally. And the city has put a whole department together now on, the ensuring that we take advantage, I shouldn't take advantage, that we preserve the eco environment that we have, and make sure that we don't destroy it. By the same token, when you look at ecotourism, you can look at it one of two ways. One is, let's invite the public to see our beautiful land. Let's make sure, because the people that are going to come to see that are people that share the support of nature. So they're not going to, for the most part, they're not going to destroy it. And we can set up places where they can park and paths for them to walk on, and make it a really nice environment for them, and do it without any economic benefit. Well, and that's one way to do it. And the second way to do it is to do it in a way that, supports the nature and the natural environment, but do it in a way that we take the cost elements of it off the backs of the taxpayers. And that's the economic development side, is getting somebody else to pay for it. I lean on that side. The people that lean on the other side, that don't want anybody to do anything, just leave it in its natural state so they can go hiking and all. Well, somebody still has to maintain, and that maintenance costs money. And the only place the city gets money is from taxes. So if they haven't got anybody else to tax, then guess who they're going to tax? You and me. Well, I think they're looking at a balance, and I think they're coming to some realizations and some smart, intelligent approaches. They're embracing the environmental groups. They're inviting them to the table to have their input on what they're doing. So I think there's some positive action taking place.
And that's important. I'm going to say this because anybody in this city that understands this statement, it's going to be you. You're no matter what decision they make, they're not going to have 100% on board. And I like the fact that they made this decision to move on with a P3, and get this process started and get this this unbelievable weight that's been on the back shoulders of every commissioner since it's been brought into play. That's how I feel about it. And talking with them, they all feel the same way, maybe at different levels. But there's nobody out there that's been a bigger proponent than Jill Luke. And Jill Luke is very comfortable with the P3 organization that's involved now. Extremely. I can say that because she was on this show. Those are her words. And if we can't embrace this now with somebody who really only focus was not destroying Wormhole Springs as it stands, if she feels like this is a good situation, first off, that should eliminate a lot of the naysayers out there that don't feel that way. The second side of that is get involved. Don't take other people's information. Northport Forward does a great job getting information out, working on projects. North P.O.R.T. is another way to go about it. I got to say that differently, but it just doesn't roll off the tongue as easy. But yep. The funny thing is both of those organizations and others are absolutely focused on really trying to make Warm Mill Springs not be the taxpayer burden.
Yeah. And, I just saw a comment by Bill English on the Facebook page. Hi, Bill. And Bill's a great guy and a strong environmentalist. But he says the issue of Warm Mill Springs needs to go to referendum and possibly a bond. Well, a bond means that the homeowners, the residents of Northport, pay for it. And that's, diametrically opposed to where I feel let the people who are using it pay for it. So if you either develop it in such a way that you can put a boutique resort in the area and other hotels that will pick up the overflow, and that won't be on environmentally sensitive areas, or you charge everybody who wants to go there $100 a visit or something. Charge them the cost of upkeep, but don't float another bond. That just adds taxes to my tax bill. Find another way to pay for it. And I'm open to any suggestions. So, and the only things I can see is either the people who go there pay for it, which means raise the rates significantly, or get somebody in a business side to pay for it. And that's usually, bed tax. And I think I saw a story in the paper the other day. Manatee County is charging a 15% bed tax. Think about that. You rent a hotel, you buy a hotel room for $200. The city is getting, the tax on it is $30.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
Right.
And the people are willing to pay that because it's a part of the visiting public, and use that money. Find out other ways like that to get the revenue side to pay for the expense side, because it's very expensive to maintain it.
Well, see, I'm going to go here for a second because I've had this conversation with Bill or Chuck. I love having conversations with him. I've learned a lot from him.
Always.
On different areas. I truly respect that. My question though would be, we've had all this time to come up with resources, and we've laid goose eggs everywhere, and yet we're still fighting the same thing. Raise our taxes so we can pay for this non-piece of property, and I say piece, because truthfully, it's nothing right now. It is scrapped beyond all belief. It is not a valuable piece as it was 20 years ago.
Nope.
It's deteriorated. It now needs massive love, not just a little bit. It needs massive love. On top of that, you've got groups of people that think that it's okay just to spend tax dollars on it or put it. And I love Chuck. I'm not throwing that at you. But when you say it needs to go to a referendum, we put it to referendum a long time ago. We bought to buy it.
That's right.
And then we voted not to take care of it. We have literally not. We've patched it together, and the city has done a great job patching it together. We lost our partnership with the county. I don't want to get into that because we're treading backwards. And you know what I've seen in the last 2 years here? We're pushing through backwards. We're pushing out of backwards thinking. We're going forward thinking. And yes, while I want Chuck to think of these environmentally friendly things because he's on track with so many things. You know what? Sometimes you got to embrace moving forward and embracing it by influencing what's going forward with it. And because it's going to run you completely over. And in 3 years or 2 years, you're still going to be saying we should have put it to referendum, but look what we got today. Yeah. And we don't want this. They did the same thing with the pool. We don't want the pool. We don't want the pool. Well, the pool is a critical piece for building a strong community. We've got so many things happening at that pool complex that affects our working class citizens, like swimming lessons. So we have a potential of less drownings in our city and losing life. There's a bigger picture that I think collectively, if we look at it as a city, that pool changed that area, that the Morgan Center changed that whole environment, gave kids a place to go where we didn't have this really foundational spot that wasn't running down like the Y was before. I mean, holy cow, we watched that pool deteriorate in front of our eyes until we finally did something. Well, we're doing the same thing with Warm Mineral Springs because we can't seem to get out of our own way. And it's because we haven't had I think the blessing that we have today with the staff, the city manager and the commissioners who are not letting anyone put a lid on their thinking. And I think once the lid is off the jar, this is what we're doing. We're moving.
That's right. And Bill is saying it's only because the city keeps subverting the process of grants and the higher protection of the spring, like the outstanding spring designation.
That's not true.
And he's saying referendum is the only true service, or a referendum is put to vote. That goes on the ballot. And I'll make a prediction right now. If you put that out there to the public,
I told him.
and the question is, do you want to pay to maintain and fix Warm Mineral Springs? Yes or no? You're going to have an overwhelming negative response to that. And then the springs is going to be shut.
Yeah.
Okay. They'll put a big 10-foot fence around it and it's over. Now nobody will enjoy it. Your grants, it's very rare, if ever, that you get a grant provider to be the only provider for the funding. Usually there's matching grants, or they're saying you come up with 25%, we'll get the rest. And those are for a fixed period of time, and usually for a fixed project, not for ongoing maintenance. And that's what the city does many times. Government does it, not just the city of Northport. They say it doesn't cost us anything to build it, but it costs us $40 million to maintain it over the next 10 years. And where does that money come from? It comes from taxpayers. So I think they've got to make some fundamental decisions. I think they have or are in the process of making those decisions to point it in a direction, and then find out what the best way to secure that direction at the lowest possible cost, if any, to the public. And I think they're on the right track.
And I want to ask, I know how I feel on it. I 100% know exactly how I feel about Warm Mineral Springs. Do you feel like they should press on the gas pedal and forge ahead?
I think they need to make a decision. Look, commissioners and all elected officials are hired by the public to move us in a positive direction. Maintain our tax base, give us the services we want, and make our life better. I don't expect to be involved in every one of their decisions.
No.
They don't pay me enough money for that. So, Bill is saying, in response to my comment, he'll take that bet that it will pass overwhelmingly for a minimum development. That's not the question I asked, Bill. The question is very simple. Do you want to pay taxes to build and or maintain Warm Mineral Springs? I think I'll bet you the overwhelming response will be no.
I actually agree, because if we just place that vote in the West Villages by itself, if you told everyone in the West Villages that you were going to raise their tax rate, and that's just one portion of Northport.
Yep. You'd have a riot.
Overwhelmingly, that whole area will not just vote no. They will march all over City Hall.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a failure to even talk about that. I couldn't have said it any clearer than what you did, because I have.
Let me say it even clearer now, because Bill is saying, I think the 92% of the survey answered that question. And Bill, there is no verification on that survey that you lived in the city of Northport. I will make another bet that says over 50% of the respondents to that survey lived outside of the city limits. They don't pay taxes. They pay county taxes. The county doesn't contribute a dime to this.
Right.
It's all in the back of the city of Northport. So unless they verify where you live, and verification with a bill of some type, a utility bill or something that says you actually live in the city of Northport, I don't trust any of those surveys, because there are people out there that flood it. And if people live in War Mineral Springs area and they don't even realize they're not in the city of Northport.
You know,
they're in unincorporated Sarasota County.
I heard something today, and it's small, just off topic, maybe just a tad, but you know, we've had a lot of changes going on in America right now, and you know, there's all these cancel culture things where they just get canceled out. Well, the silent majority, I would be terrified right now if I were to think that survey is correct, because that survey is in the realm of percentages, doesn't even qualify as a true picture of what the silent majority would do in Northport if it were put to a referendum. And I would be terrified to put this, if I were to put something like this worded the correct way now. Yeah. If you're going to word it, we're going to raise your taxes this amount to rebuild War Mineral Springs. 50% of our city would ask, where is War Mineral Springs and what does it do?
You know, one of the first questions in that survey, because I took it, was, did you ever go to War Mineral Springs? And I answered yes. And that was it. So that means I was added to the people that went to War Mineral Springs. And it should have asked the next question, did you ever go again? And I would have said no. So I went once. I've lived here since 1993. That's a lot of years. One time I went. You've gone twice? Okay.
Twice. Both for events.
Yep.
Once in the water. Okay. And I've never taken anyone there to impress, because it's never been impressible.
Nope.
You have to go back to when it was privately owned, when it was first built, to make it impressible. Carrie's grandmother has pictures of what it looked like because she was there. It was impressible then.
Yes.
It leaves a very, very non-favorable taste in your mouth to go there today and to think it's this gold mine waiting to happen. It's only a gold mine if we have somebody willing to put $20 million into it and have some money generated to help pay them back.
Yeah.
If we raise the taxes, we're never going to get that money back.
Never. We've already spent $5.5 million. Yep, we spent $5.5 million on it already.
Yes, we have.
Yeah,
seriously.
And then the city says, you know, there's reports out that said it doesn't cost us anything. It's paid for by the taxes, or by the people that go there, but nothing's maintained. The walls had mold in them. They were deteriorating.
Read this, Peter.
Did a poll on Northport's neighbors, the group with 28,000, and 80% said they would not pay more taxes and want a P3. Yeah, depends on who you ask. You know, if you ask the people that go there, they want us to spend all of our money making it nice for them, but they don't live here. They don't have a voice. I'm sorry to say, you don't have a voice.
Bobby Schott has put a group together that he can do these things. This is why I'm telling you, be terrified if you think you're safe in putting this to a referendum. Be terrified. It'll never pass.
Yep. And it's actually getting more and more people involved in the city.
Yeah.
And Bill, you're not seeing it, but I know John and I are. They're getting involved in the city because they don't want this. So, be careful what you wish for. I think the answer is let's get together, let's play together in the pond, in the lot, and let's make sure that we're doing what's right for Northport, what's right for Warm Mineral Springs, what's right for the people who come here as guests. And the best way to do it is find a solution that doesn't put the cost on the back of the taxpayers. Very simple.
And it
really is very simple. Find a way to do it.
I still want to have coffee with Bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
I 100% want to have coffee.
I love it. I love it when we do. We start off with a half an hour, 45-minute, coffee chat, and it turns into 2 hours. And I always learn something.
And Bobby Schott, please put your name of your group up on Facebook, and I'll put it up on the screen, man.
Yeah,
because I appreciate your friendship and everything you're trying to do by putting insight and put polls out to your people. It really keeps people engaged. That's a 25. I think it's over 25,000 people now.
That
28,000. So 28,000 people. Put it on referendum. I don't care, because if you put it on referendum, I'm voting no.
Yeah.
I know I'm voting no, and I know I got 80% going to vote no. It will be the worst thing ever, and that's not what we want. Actually, what we want is we want Warm Mineral Springs to thrive better than it ever was when it first opened, because there's more people here. If it was more dynamic than what we have today, it would be a hot topic of conversation look at what we did, not look at, oh my God, look at what we did.
Yeah,
we absolutely did nothing.
When it was purchased, people forget the fact that prior to its purchase by the city and the county, it was in private hands. It was never in government hands. So and then the government bought it, and the government bought it for its economic development impact. They saw it as an economic development driver. They did not buy it for a park. And I'll guarantee you, if the city said, we're going to spend $5.5 million for a pond and make it a park, the population would have gone bazookas. And what happened is some commissioners found that some of the money, I think, was used out of a parks fund. They took money from the wrong fund, I guess. And that's how it got converted to a park. It was never intended to be a park. It was driven by a group of people in the city that wanted to make it a park. But I'll ask the people out there right now, how many of you would pay $5.5 million for a park, for the city to buy parkland? I don't think you're going to get many people.
And listen, I think if you approach that the right way and you word it the right way, you might be able to get a vote. You might be able to get a good vote.
Yeah. And Bill, it's in the comp plan, but it was designated a park after the purchase, not before. It wasn't in the city limits. And it was, when you look at the meetings they had, the constant piece they were talking about is the economic engine potential. Name a park that's an economic engine. There aren't any.
I know.
There are buildings on parklands that are economic engines, but a park is not an economic engine. Why? Because it's usually free to get into. And so I don't know. Crazy.
I agree. The name of his group, he put the link out there, but it's called Northport Neighbors. Really, it is a phenomenal site. We've now talked about three different things happening on Facebook with Northport Forward, Northport with dots in between port.
Yep.
And then we've got Northport Neighbors. If you don't think that people are waking up and people are getting involved, you're absolutely mistaken. I think when I've watched it, and I've watched it for 23 years. 23 years I've watched people go into City Hall with their groups of 20 or less and be able to push change. Well, the problem they have today is there's groups of people, 28,000 people who are now on social media. Those 20 people used to have a voice and feel very protected in shouting it out. And it got their way before. The problem is social media is changing everything, and it changed everything. And I'm going to say this because it's different now. The power that social media had with the beginning was that people could spout off. Well, those spouters are Bobby Schott did a great job with this group, and I'll tell you why. You can't get in there and just do whatever you want to do. There's some restraint and some control, and respect has to be given. So when there's 28,000 people in one group, those people are playing by the rules, and they're understanding where they're at. And when there's information that's going out and surveys that are being asked, it's power. It's because everybody knows there's no BS involved. It's very direct. It's very to the point, and it's about the community. All three of these groups that we're talking about really feel that way, and it is waking the quiet voter up.
Yes, it is.
Go ahead.
No, yes, it is. I'm agreeing with you.
And we have got to. And listen, I on a personal note, it fires me up to another level, and it's not trying to push people down. It's like jump on the locomotive that will run you over, and it's not us. It's the city itself is going to run you over because the lid is off the jar. It's our turn to grow. It's our turn to also be involved enough to control what we want. This is the minute where, yeah, you can speak up, but give a solution, not taxes. I'm sick and tired of the tax excuse.
Yep.
If we're a city progressively thinking of growing, and by the way, we're only a third built out still, and we have plenty to do. If you think that having no true plan, and you just want to tout out ideas that aren't acceptable because nobody wants higher taxes.
Nope.
We're going to have an election on I think of an epic scale that's coming up. Epic scale, because I think the woke are woke. And I hate that word. But people are getting sick and tired of the pushing down because they're quiet. I think the biggest fear people should have is waking up the quiet voices.
Yep.
When the quiet people are not voting, that means that they're happy. It's about to be unhappy.
Yep, it is.
I'm not joking. Across the board, and the more people I talk to, and all walks of life, and I know Bill doesn't truly want higher taxes. He doesn't want his family to have higher taxes.
But he made another comment on and give away the $9 million. Let's be clear, folks. What Bill is talking about is the city had $9 million in reserves to replenish the buildings. Well, that money was put in reserves, and that budget was put together like 3 or 4 years ago. That $9 million is now $20 million to refurbish the buildings. And the city commission said, whoops, wait a minute. Where are we going to get the $9 million? Enter a public-private partnership. So the city says, we'll put $9 million towards it. You put the rest towards it. And that's what the developer is doing. That's called a partnership. People are participating together on a project. If we didn't give away $9 million, we doubled our money overnight. We doubled our resources overnight. If we didn't do that, those buildings would be in more disrepair. It just continues to deteriorate. The city doesn't have enough money to fix it, so what they'd wind up doing is fixing it piecemeal, and we'll be in a $9 million expense for the rest of eternity because they'll never get it fixed.
Yep.
Okay, so that's not what they're doing. And the other thing he said is all you're doing is putting forth your surrogates. That's good for your agenda. Well, Bill, I hate to tell you this, but the people who are fighting for keeping War Mineral Springs the way it is and putting the tax burden on the residents, guess what they're doing? They're fighting. They're putting up their surrogates to promote their agenda. So yeah, it's time you got some pushback. Sorry, buddy, but that's the way the real world operates. And let the ball fall where it falls. Let's find out how many more people are interested in spending tax dollars on fixing up a property that nobody in Northport goes to versus getting somebody else to do it.
I agree. We're talking about one portion, one sliver, and I mean this. And somebody should pull the data. How many square miles we have?
104.
104. How many square miles is War Mineral Springs?
Small.
Yeah. Well, I thought I heard you chuckle. Did you chuckle?
Yeah, it's a small piece. Yeah.
All right. So let's take that little dot in the 104 miles. 104 square miles. Our city commissioner and our manager and our staff at the city and others are looking at 104 square miles, and they're including the dot in it. This is not economic development on the dot. This is economic development for 104 square miles. And they're incorporating plans for all of these things. I did a show last week, and the one gentleman kept asking, they're taking all the trees down. Okay, yes, they are, because the city doesn't own that land. And yes, on Sumter, if he's listening today, I would love for him to go ahead and call Heron Creek and let them know exactly their development team. Let them know why they're tearing all the trees down so that they could build the buildings to bring more growth to Northport. Sorry, we have enough. And I love Alice White, and she knows how I feel about trees. I want the trees, but I'm tired of talking about damn trees. The reason I'm tired of talking about damn trees is you're talking about people's property. It's not the city's property. The city is already at 30%. That's what we were supposed to be at. We're probably more than 30%. And they're not even incorporating in the fact that we're buying more lots with the tree funding we get from tearing out the trees on Sumter. So they're buying lots up. They're doing different things. They're preserving our trees so that we can actually be a city and survive what's coming at us. And if we don't learn the ins and outs of all of those moving parts as a city, the conversations are just, they're repetitive. Well, it's the same conversations we've been having for 23 years because I've been listening to them for 23 years. Don't slow down this train. Let it go and try to get things in its way to slow it down that you want. If you want economic growth, awesome. If you want trees, then get with the tree people. Get in there and start helping them find out and carve out these lots that have trees on them so we can buy them up and preserve that. That's how this system is designed to work. And it's ever fluid, ever changing. And I think we've got leadership right now that is absolutely 100% on target. And Alice White is pro-tree, who is also pro-growth, who is also embracing this and saying, okay, so if we're going to do this, then we've got to have an answer. Thank God that we have an answer for all the trees that are coming down. But you gotta find out the answer to what you're asking. And understand that if you don't start putting these pieces together, the puzzle's going to just be in the box. and we have a city right now that's putting these pieces together.
Yep.
And how do you am I missing anything?
No, you're spot on. I just had a conversation with, and I was talking to you about it before, with Sid Kitson, and he's the guy that put together Babcock Ranch, which is probably the most environmentally driven city in the world, certainly in the United States, with solar panels, with vegetation that's all drought tolerant, that is, just built around the environment. And I asked him, how did you go about that? He said, we embraced the environmentalists. We brought them to the table. We got their input. Not everything they wanted could be done, but they were sitting at the table with us. And I think the city is trying to do that with the environmental groups. But if they keep fighting it and saying, you can't do anything, you're going to lose, because the city doesn't have that luxury. They can't do nothing. They have to do something. They own that property. So their choices are very simple. Get somebody else to pay for it, put it on the backs of the taxpayers, or shut the whole thing down. Just shut it down and let nature take over. And then nobody will enjoy it, and that asset will go away. But the city still spent $5.5 million for it that they have to recoup. So how are they going to get that money back?
Well, and you know what? I love, and I'm going to step back for a second and to the people that are out there that are wondering if we're just attacking. It is not attack. This is 100%. And Chuck, I love you, but it's funny when we all three sat and had coffee. We're having the same conversation in the same tone. It's kind of funny. I think of Chuck every time we do these things, because Chuck knows what he wants. Chuck is a good dude, and yep. he has his own ideas, and I love the fact that he expresses them, and others are doing the same thing, but the adaptability to growth is I think is one of the hardest things to do. And I'm going to say this because, we talk in life, we talk about how people adapt to change. They don't, they suck at it, and they really do. And there's very few people that like things to get out of the norm, because once they're out of their norm, the control factors are gone. And we're not asking for citizens to close their eyes and not act like things are changing, because they are changing. They're changing every day. But I think the conversations that we have are that things are changing because all right. So Davey Ionati, he's an idiot, but that's my opinion. Just so you know, I love the fact that propaganda radio. You've cost the taxpayers too much money, my friend. So
David, go home and go back to whatever you were doing before you tried to get involved in the city. Bill English said, your plan is already in the works, John, put forth by the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. That's the same group that orchestrated the purchase of 5,700 acres in Orange Hammock. That 5,700 acres, folks, was annexed into the city. There was a cost associated with that, but it was paperwork cost. According to Jill Luke, it didn't cost us anything. And the city gave it away to the state, the county, and the Southwest Florida Water Management District to put it into conservancy. Now, let me tell you what another word for conservancy is. It's land banking. Of that 5,700 acres, 2,000 of it should definitely be conserved. It is drop dead gorgeous, environmentally sensitive land. The other 3,000 acres was cow pastures. Now, I don't know of many cow pastures in the world that are environmentally sensitive. If you understand cow farming, cow ranching, they put berms up to redirect the water all the time, because the cows are eating in the southwest portion, the southwest 40. So they put mounds of dirt that redirect the water to where the cows are. because the cows have to go where the grass is, right? So they're constantly doing that. And I'm being told by the Conservancy this is a major water supply for Northport. So we didn't even get water rights out of it. We didn't get a discount on our water. We just gave away 5,700 acres that cost us nothing and had multi millions of dollars of tax revenue, which is why they annexed it into the city,
Right.
potential. So, I would not rely, Bill, on the Conservancy or the solutions and plans from history that are put forth by many over the last 40 years you've been a resident. These have been putting land in Conservancy, and I'll tell you what's going to happen at some point. Not going to be in our lifetime. We're going to run out of land. There's going to be no more land in Northport. But gee whiz, we got 10,000 acres at the Deer Prairie Creek. Gee whiz, we have 5,700 acres at Orange Hammock. Gee whiz, we have the Mayaca, State Park. Gee whiz, we have 35,000 acres right north of us on the Carlton Preserve. And some developer is going to turn around and say, we want to buy that land from you, and here's $10 million. And the city's going to say, no, we're not going to do that. So they're going to say, here's $20 million. Here's $50 million, because what is it? Supply and demand. When that land is gone in Northport, they'll find those 3,000 acres that were cow pasture and convince the elected officials at that time that it really isn't conservative land. And they'll buy it and they'll build a development on it. So all you've done, I think a lot of this stuff that they've done in Northport is land banking for the developers. So 20, 30 years from now, they have more land that they can develop. All they got to do is convince the elected officials to take it off the preservation ranks. So don't be fooled by a lot of these stories that are going on. Get up and face reality. Make it a part of the economy. Put an eco lodge on that property that's generating revenue. And when the city tries to sell it to a developer, the residents are going to complain because that's a revenue producer for us. That's where my daughter got married. You can't do that. But just putting a fence around it and quote unquote conserving it, I think what they're doing is land banking. That's just my opinion. And I've got a lot of experience in this field, guys. They just look at what's happening. And we fall under that trap. Oh, aren't we great? We preserve the land. Yeah, tell that to the developers. They love you. The people that you're fighting against, you're walking right into the path.
So we've got about 7 minutes left, and I want to.
Keep going, Bill.
I want to hit something here real quick because my good friend Bobby Schott, he posted some things, and I put it up there on the screen, and I love it. Thank God. You know what? We're all this should give you, Mr. Iannotti, this should give you a warning shot across your bow, Mr. Facebook bullier. When you don't have a concept of an idea, putting a propaganda radio on is an embarrassment to you and your intelligence. Step your game up and start living the true life, which is getting involved and trying to be supportive, or you can be your negative naysayer that you've been all your life, and you can continue down that path. Anyone who's listening to him, though, I really want you to understand that what we're saying is get involved with us. Help us mold the city. Help the city understand what you want. Don't just spout off with your useless nonsense information. Sit down with Chuck at Panera. Have a conversation with them. Start dialogue. There's great people in our town that want this city to be molded around greatness and what they want. I'll have coffee with anybody, including Mr. Iannotti.
Yep.
But the funny thing is, I don't think you have one word that comes out of your mouth that I want to listen to, because all I've seen out of everything you've ever done is derogatory. So I am going to say that because Bobby Schott leads a group that you can't do that kind of BS on it. But you know what? Here's the beauty of radio. You've made it onto radio, I guess, in the format that you wanted to make it. I made sure that you were embraced and hugged, just in the manner that you should. And I hope you watch again, and I hope you come up with some good concepts and ideas. And I feel like we're very blessed that you did cost us $80,000 in a special election, because I believe that if you would have been sitting in the chair of a commissioner, you would have cost us a hell of a lot more.
I agree. And I'd like to invite Bobby, like we did we invited Bill to come on, and let's have a dialogue for an hour.
Yeah.
Bill did it, and it was a learning experience for everybody.
Yeah,
and
Bill and the whole group. That
whole group. There were three environmental people on the group: Robin, Barbara, and Bill. And it was a great dialogue. Everybody got to share their opinions and let the chips fall where they're going to fall. But Mr. Ionati seems to do his bit on like guerrilla warfare. He gets on the internet, makes a comment, and then disappears. And he's proven over and over again he doesn't follow through on anything. He got himself elected and took all that money from people to get elected, because it does cost money. And he did nothing. Within, 2 weeks, he resigned.
Yeah,
resigned from office. How do you do that? I mean, what is going through your mind? And it tells me you can't have a lot of love for the city of Northport. And I can tell you, John loves Northport. I love Northport. Bill loves Northport. Bobby loves Northport. And these are the people that have been around for a long time, continue to be around, continue to speak their voice. Whether you like it or not, they're out there and they're accessible. You go on my website, it's got my email address, it's got my cell phone number. On my Facebook page, it's here I am, willing to talk.
Well, and the beauty is without everybody's voice being part of this conversation, Bobby Schott, I appreciate you big time, and we definitely have got to get lunch going again when we get back, or when I get back home. But there are so many things happening within our city that I don't want to use the word woke. I'm tired of that word. I think it's BS too, because people use these words against each other all the damn time.
Well, you said it earlier, though, John. The people they're using it against are now standing up and starting to respond.
Yeah, 100%.
Watch out. There's a wave coming, and it's a big one.
Get on the bandwagon. Let's help make Northport what it should be, what you want it to be. Get part of these groups. Talk to Northport Forward. Talk to North P.O. Period R. Period. T period. We gotta figure that one out. But I put those out there on Facebook, and seriously, Northport neighbors, be part of that group. Be part of that group and get it on Facebook. I promise you that group is 100% information out. No Facebook bullying is going to happen there. None of the BS that you get in other groups on. And truthfully, if you want to try to get in that group and you want to try to do that, I'll just strike one, strike two, strike three. You're out. That's it, baby. And I don't even know that Bobby lets you have strike three. But if you want to play ball with Bobby Schott on Northport neighbors, just be a positive influence or an influence. Positive influence and an influence are two different things. A positive influence is going over the top, like we're supportive of the growth. An influence is I want the growth. I want it to be good, but I can we have some restraint? Okay, those are good conversations to have. Yeah. Propaganda radio is someone you don't want to listen to because they're on the bottom rail of education about what they're trying to do. So give an idea, give a thought, give something that can start a conversation, open dialogue, and build that foundation, build that trust.
Yeah, and let me just add something to that, John, because I can tell you from experience, John and I are not for growth. We're for a future for Northport that's economically viable. What does that mean? That it's not going to cost us $10,000 a year in city taxes. How do we get all the things we want? And it's a combination of putting the two together. It's not one or the other. And neither one of them exist separately. If you go straight for growth, you're going to destroy the city.
I agree.
If you go straight for the environment, you're going to destroy the city. How do you put them together to peacefully coexist and recognize and accept the realities of life? Everything costs something. And when somebody in government tells you it's free, somebody else is paying for it. Because the government only gets money from taxes, guys, and taxes come from us.
Absolutely. And,
so there is no free stuff from government.
If I will say this, that if you think our city with just chatter is going to slow down, chatter is not going to slow this locomotive that's happening. Chatter is not going to do it. Getting involved with any of the groups that you feel are important, that is hugely part of it. And having your voice heard, this is about time where you go to your neighbor and you say, y'all better get involved and understand what you're voting for truly and clearly, what you're voting for and who you're voting for and why you're voting for it. The working class of Northport better learn to embrace each other and have each other's back across the board, because the more that happens, the more sustainability our town will have, the more sustainability your wallet will have. Because if we don't do that, the working class may not be able to live in Northport anymore. And that's a fact. Yep. We have huge issues coming, and we have lots of changes coming, and people who don't adapt to change, they will get really run over, and they will feel run over, and they will feel that negative side of it. And I don't want them to feel that, because there is a true opportunity to have a voice, have some structure, and have your voice heard. Conversation is a great thing. I think it needs to happen more. People need to talk. People need to work things out. Like the show we did with all the involvement, just the total package of voices being thrown out there. Well, should that happen at just this show? No, it should happen over coffee. It should happen over a lunch where you take somebody out and get to know who they are. Go meet with the city commissioner. Go sit in the office and have those conversations. Go meet staff and ask them questions. I'm telling you right now that the more that you do that, and the more that we can push our city forward, it's going to go the direction it's supposed to go. It's going to go the direction it's going to go. And if you don't, it's just going to go there without you being on the ride.
And and I'll add to that, if I could.
Sure.
If you can't meet with a commissioner or a city manager or staff members, there's a group out there, Northport Forward, that's doing the meetings for you. And they're bringing those people to group meetings. Almost every month they're having a meeting where you can go in and meet these people face to face right there in one big swoop, one meeting. Meet them, shake their hand, get to know them a little bit. And if you haven't got the time, to sit down with them over a cup of coffee or something individually. So there's no excuses. Northport's got a very strong social network going right now, that there's anything you want, there's an answer to it out there. So
huge.
Stay involved.
Well, listen, it's 5 minutes after. I had to get off the radio, but I had to cut us off mid-sentence there, so I didn't get the alarms going off. But I stayed on extra on Facebook, because I truly think that this was a hugely valuable piece of conversation to have, because getting people involved and getting people to move forward, and really, I think squelching some of the stuff that's out there. And Bobby Schott, I thank you so much for participating, because the just the mere fact that he's got a page that has that many voters should really kind of settle this referendum conversation down, because I think the worst thing you could possibly do right now, and I want you to do it. I truly want you to do it, which should tell you shouldn't put it on a referendum. I want you to, if that's the route you really want, because that silent voice that you should be scared of will wake up.
Yep.
So you guys have a great weekend. Come join me on Monday. We've got I think Parks and Rec on Monday, and have a great, safe weekend, and get home safe. And we'll talk to you on Monday. This is John Rawlings with Peter Bartolotta and Real Talk Radio saying thanks and have a good day. WKDW Radio. Check us out, kdwradio.com, and check out all the Facebook pages that we have put out there on social media right now. Please join all these groups, like and join them, get involved. I would that be what you would say, Peter?
Absolutely. Enjoyed it. Good job. Good show. Good show. Bye, Bill.